The day I found out, the sky was lying, sunlight spilling like gold over the church roof, birds singing like everything was right, while my whole heart was breaking under that fake blue heaven. "Did you hear?" That's what Sister Clara whispered through the crack of the kitchen door. I was icing lemon pound cake for the choir meeting, humming to the gospel station, when she said it. Soft, like she was afraid of her own mouth. "They married this morning, Helen. Quiet ceremony. Family only." My hand froze mid-swirl. The spatula trembled, yellow frosting dripping slow as honey onto the counter. "Family only," I repeated. She nodded, eyes full of pity. My son, my blood, my firstborn, married without me. The air went still. Even the clock stopped ticking like it didn't want to count another second of that moment. I looked down at the ring on my hand, the same one I bought 22 years ago when I signed the deed to that little white church on Jefferson Street, the same church they just used for a wedding I wasn't invited to. "Maybe they just forgot," Clara said. "Forgot?" A mother don't get forgot. Not when she paid for the roof, not when she bought every pew and painted them herself until her knuckles cracked like old wood. Not when the preacher still calls her Miss Helen the Miracle Lady for saving that building from foreclosure in '98. No, they didn't forget me. They hid me. That night I didn't sleep. The house was too quiet, the way quiet gets when it's full of betrayal. The moonlight was spilling through my lace curtains, silver and cruel. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the soft tick of the clock, and the heavy sound of my own breathing. I sat at my table staring at the framed picture of my son, Marcus, in his high school graduation robe. His smile looked honest back then. Lena, his new wife now, apparently, stood beside him, holding flowers I bought. I remembered how she'd call me Mama Helen and ask for recipes, how I'd tell her the secret to pound cake is patience. Funny thing, patience tastes like betrayal when it's overbaked. By sunrise, I wasn't crying anymore. No, baby. The tears had dried up, and what was left was something sharper, like glass in my chest. So I got dressed. White blouse, gray skirt, black hat, Sunday best, even though it was Saturday. I took my Bible, my keys, and a folder with a single piece of paper inside, the church deed. The air outside smelled of rain and roses. When I pulled up to the church, the parking lot still had rose petals scattered across the pavement. The ribbon from Lena's bouquet was tangled on the gate, pink and careless. I picked it up, wrapped it around my fingers, and whispered, "Lord, give me the strength not to cuss." Inside, the air was thick with yesterday's joy. The floor was sprinkled with confetti, the kind that sticks to your shoes no matter how clean your soul is. The altar still had white lilies, my favorite flowers. I stood there in the aisle I had mopped every Sunday for 25 years, and for the first time, I didn't feel holy. I felt human, tired, used. Then I saw it, a folded program left on a pew. Marcus and Lena, a union blessed by love. I traced the print with my fingers, the ink still faintly warm from fresh pride. Family only. I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam doors or throw things. I just sat in the front pew, same seat I'd prayed in every week, and whispered to God like I always did. But this time, my prayer wasn't for them. It was for me. Lord, I know vengeance ain't mine, but if you could just lend it for one afternoon, I'd return it polished. The silence after that was so deep, I swear even heaven was listening. When the door opened behind me, I didn't turn. I didn't need to. I knew those footsteps. "Marcus." "Ma," he said, voice low, "what are you doing here?" "I came to thank the bride and groom," I said softly. My voice sounded calm, like thunder under a silk sheet. He sighed. "It was just a small thing, Ma. We wanted it simple. No drama." "No drama," I echoed, standing slow. I reckon betrayal's always simpler when the one betrayed don't know about it. He rubbed his neck. "We were going to tell you." "When? After the honeymoon? After the first baby? Or maybe after you sold my church to pay for the reception hall?" He froze. "Sold what? What are you talking about?" I stepped closer, pulled the folder from my purse, and held it up. This church, Marcus. You remember this paper? The one I signed with your daddy before he died? The one I paid off with bake sales and blessings? I opened it, laid it flat on the pew. Read the name at the bottom. His eyes scanned the page, his lips moving. Then he looked up, pale. It says... Say it, I interrupted. It says, Helen Louise Carter. That's right. My name, not yours, not hers, not the deacon's, mine. Lena came in then, wearing that same smug little smile she always had when she thought she'd won. Oh, she said, I didn't expect you here. I noticed, I said. She stepped closer, perfume thick like fake peaches. We wanted a small ceremony. No offense, of course, just intimate. Baby, I said sweetly, you can't spell intimate without in it, and from where I'm standing, you in it deep. Her smile faltered. What's that supposed to mean? I turned to Marcus, voice still calm. Tell your wife who owns the building she just got married in. He stammered. Say it, I said again. She does, he whispered. Mama owns it. The silence that followed was louder than a choir on Easter Sunday. Lena's face went pale. You mean she owns the church? I nodded. The deed's in my name. Has been since you were in diapers. She swallowed. Hard. But that means, I said, leaning closer, your wedding might have been holy in heaven, but down here, baby, it's trespassing. For a long minute, nobody moved. Marcus looked torn between pride and shame. Lena's eyes darted toward the door like she wanted to run. And me? I just stood there, still as a stone, feeling the storm finally start to calm inside me. Because see, sometimes revenge don't need a shout. Sometimes it just needs paperwork. As I turned to leave, I paused at the altar, ran my hand along the wood I'd polished 1,000 times, and whispered, They thought they could hide their vows from me, Lord, but you already wrote mine in the foundation. Outside, the wind picked up. The church bell swung once, even though no one pulled it, sounded like approval. And as I walked down those steps, heels clicking steady, I didn't feel left out anymore. I felt powerful. Because now they knew, every secret they tried to bury, I already owned the ground. The next morning, I brewed my coffee the way I liked it. Slow drip, strong enough to wake the ancestors. The house smelled like cinnamon and old memories. I sat by the window, Bible open but unread. I wasn't looking for verses. I was looking for balance. See, betrayal don't always make you bitter. Sometimes it makes you deliberate. Every sip of that coffee tasted like clarity. Then came the knock. 3 short taps, the kind people make when they know they're not welcome. I didn't answer right away. Let them wait. Sometimes silence is the only sermon folks understand. When I opened the door, Marcus stood there, hat in hand, shame in his eyes. Behind him, Lena was half hidden by the porch post, dressed like she came for pity. Ma, he started, can we talk? I leaned on the frame. Depends. You come to confess or justify? He winced. You're really going to make this hard? No, baby, I said. You did that when you left me out your wedding. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. It wasn't like that. Lena thought... I cut him off. You mean you thought? 'Cause a woman might whisper, but a man still chooses what he does after. His jaw tightened. You think this is about money? About the church? I smiled. Slow, sad, dangerous. Everything's about the church, Marcus. It's where we baptize our babies and bury our mistakes. He sighed. You still own it. Nobody's taking it from you. Yet, I let that word hang like smoke, because I'd seen enough of the world to know how greed starts. Not with a handout, but a handshake. Lena finally stepped forward, her perfume sweet but her tone sour. We just wanted to make it ours, Mama Helen. Make it a new chapter. You understand, don't you? I stared at her. Ain't no new chapter when you tear out the author's name. She blinked, confused. Meaning? Meaning, baby, I said. The story don't change just 'cause you wish it did. The ink's still mine. Marcus muttered, "We'll figure this out." I nodded. "Oh, you will?" But I already did. I walked to the counter and picked up a second folder. Thicker this time, sealed with a red clip. "See this?" I said, setting it down between us. "That's every expense I ever paid to keep that church standing. Roof repairs, utility bills, insurance. $43,012. You think God forgot the math?" Marcus stared at the folder like it was ticking. "Ma, what are you doing?" "Same thing I did when your daddy passed," I said. "Protecting what's left." Lena frowned. "You wouldn't sue your own son, would you?" I looked at her, calm as morning light. "I wouldn't, but I'd educate him." The air grew thick again, tension humming like a wasp near honey. Finally, Marcus stepped back. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't mean to get caught," I corrected. "Intent don't heal a wound, baby. Apology might, though, if it's cooked long enough to taste like truth." He swallowed hard. "We're sorry." I nodded once, slow. Now we getting somewhere. Then I pointed toward the folder. "But sorry don't rebuild trust. That takes work. You want forgiveness, you'll start by coming with me Sunday morning." "Why?" he asked. "Because we got a new sermon to write." Sunday came heavy with humidity and gossip. The congregation had heard whispers. Lord knows rumors travel faster than scripture. When I walked through the church doors, every head turned. Some smiled, some pitied, some waited for a show. Marcus and Lena followed behind me like kids headed to detention. The pastor, sweet old Reverend King, met me at the altar. "Sister Helen," he said, voice trembling. "I didn't know they were gonna—" "I know, Reverend," I interrupted softly. "You were just lending God the building. But next time, make sure you ask who owns the land under his feet." I took my place in the front pew, like always. When the choir started singing "Pass Me Not," I swear the organ moaned louder than usual, like heaven itself was side-eyeing the situation. Then Reverend King said, "Before today's message, Sister Helen's got a few words." The whole room went still. I walked up to the pulpit slow, Bible in hand, heart steady as a drum. "I won't be long," I said. "Y'all know me. I built this church with prayers and pie sales. I seen babies take their first steps down this aisle and caskets roll through that same door. But yesterday, something happened here that broke more than my heart. It broke tradition." A murmur rippled through the pews. I raised my hand. Silence. "They say the wedding was family only. Funny thing, though, I was the family who built the roof that blessed them, and still they locked me out." Gasps. Whispers. Lena shifted in her seat. Marcus stared at the floor. "But God," I said, voice lifting, "don't let disrespect go unpaid, and he sure don't forget who signed the deed." I held up the folder, letting it catch the light. "This church may hold their vows, but it holds my name, and from this day forward I'm putting it back where it belongs, in the hands of the Lord." Then I tore the paper in half. Gasps filled the room. Tears, claps, shouts of "Amen." Marcus's mouth dropped open. "Ma, what are you doing?" "I'm freeing myself," I said, voice shaking but proud. "Y'all can have the building, but the foundation, that's mine, and you'll never build peace without it." Outside, thunder rolled like punctuation. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then pouring down like heaven was washing away the lies. As I stepped off that altar, my shoes squeaked on the wet floor, but I didn't stumble. I felt lighter. Because the thing about ownership, it ain't always land. Sometimes it's dignity. And that day, I reclaimed every inch of mine. In the parking lot, Marcus chased after me. "Ma, wait!" I turned, rain dripping off my hat brim. "You tore up the deed," he said. "Now nobody owns the church." I smiled. Correction. Now God owns it again, and he's a far better landlord than I'll ever be. Lena whispered, "You really did that?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Yes, baby, 'cause peace don't come cheap, and I already paid full price." The storm quieted. A rainbow stretched faint across the gray sky, and for the first time in years, I felt my husband's spirit beside me, calm, proud, whispering from somewhere between the thunder and the hymn, "You did good, Helen. You did real good." 3 days passed before Marcus called again. 3 long days where the air itself felt like it was waiting to see what I'd do next. I filled the time cleaning things that didn't need cleaning, wiping spotless counters, scrubbing floors already shining. See, when a heart's been cracked, hands try to keep busy so the mind don't break completely. The phone rang just before dusk. "Ma," he said, voice small, "can we come by?" I hesitated. "You bringing your wife or your conscience?" He sighed. "Both." When they showed up, the sun was bleeding orange over the horizon. The whole world smelled like rain and regret. Marcus looked tired. Lena looked scared. I didn't move from my chair. "You can sit," I said. "Truth sounds better when folks are settled." They sat. For a moment, nobody spoke. Just the creak of the clock and the whistle of the kettle. Then Marcus said, "You really tore it up, huh? The deed?" "I did." He nodded slowly. "I thought you'd be mad forever." I smiled, soft, tired. "Oh, baby, I was. But forever's too long to run out to anger." Lena leaned forward. "We didn't mean to disrespect you. We just wanted to start something new." "And you thought lying was a good foundation for new," I said. Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared. "You're strong, Mama Helen. I thought you'd try to control it all. The church, the wedding." "Baby," I interrupted, "you can't control what's already built on faith. I don't own God's house. I just kept it clean till y'all got careless." Marcus looked at me. "What do you want from us?" I thought about that question. Not for me, but for every mother who ever gave more than she got. "I want you to remember where you came from," I said. "Not just my womb, but my work. Every dollar, every prayer, every late-night biscuit that kept you full when the lights were off." He swallowed hard. "We remember." "Good," I said, "'cause memory's the down payment on forgiveness." Lena's tears finally spilled. She reached across the table, her hand shaking. "Can you forgive me?" I looked at her, really looked at her, not as the girl who took my son, but as the woman who was still learning how to love right. "I can," I said, "but you gon' have to earn it, with truth." She nodded fast. "Anything." "Then tell me," I said, leaning in, "whose idea was it to hide the wedding?" Marcus shifted in his seat. Lena's voice broke. "Mine." The air went still. Marcus lowered his head. "She thought you'd embarrass her." That hit harder than any slap, not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. "Embarrass her," I repeated. "A woman who gave her a home, food, and love she didn't have to beg for." Lena's sobs came quiet. I know I was wrong. I was ashamed of myself. I didn't want anyone to see I married into more grace than I deserved. I sighed, long and low. "You know what shame is, baby." She shook her head. "It's pride wearing guilt's perfume." We sat there in silence a while. The kettle whistled. I poured 3 cups of tea, strong, black, no sugar. "Forgiveness," I said, setting the cups down, "ain't free. It costs truth and change. You ready to pay that price?" Marcus nodded. Lena whispered, "Yes, ma'am." "Good," I said, "'cause Sunday morning you two gon' stand in front of that same congregation and tell the truth." Lena's eyes widened. "What?" "You heard me. Y'all used the Lord's house for a secret. Now you gon' use it for a testimony." Marcus rubbed his face. "Ma, that's embarrassing." "Embarrassment is what honesty feels like when pride's dying," I said. Sunday came again, thick with humidity and anticipation. The church was packed, not for worship, but for wonder. People whispered, fanned themselves, waited for the fireworks. I walked in last, slow, steady, the way thunder follows lightning. Reverend King nodded at me. "You sure about this?" I smiled. God sure ain't shy about exposing truth. Why should I be? When Marcus and Lena stood before the congregation, the air felt electric. Marcus's voice cracked as he spoke. "We hurt my mama, lied to her, used her church for our own pride." Lena clutched his hand, and she forgave us, even when we didn't deserve it. The room went silent. Some folks wiped tears. Others whispered, "Amen." I stayed seated, quiet as stone. Forgiveness ain't about performance. It's about peace. When the service ended, people came up hugging, crying, whispering blessings, but the one that mattered most was the old deacon's wife, Miss Georgia. She leaned close and said, "You handled that with grace, Sister Helen. God himself could take notes." I smiled. "Grace ain't softness, baby. It's strength with manners." That night, I sat on my porch watching fireflies dance in the dark. Marcus called out, "You okay, Ma?" I nodded. For the first time in a long while. He smiled. "We're thinking of reopening the community kitchen, in the church basement." I chuckled. "Well, just make sure y'all keep it clean, 'cause last time I checked, grease and sin both stain quick." He laughed, genuine this time. "Yes, ma'am." The night air was soft, warm, forgiving. As they drove off, I whispered into the quiet, "Lord, thank you. You took my pain and turned it into a parable." The wind rustled the magnolia leaves like applause, and somewhere in the dark my husband's voice came again, low and sure. "Told you, Helen. You don't lose what's yours. You just learn to hold it different." A month passed before the quiet finally settled into my bones. The church glowed again, clean, alive, full of song. Children ran between the pews, and the choir's laughter bounced off the walls like forgiveness made sound. But peace don't mean life stops testing you. Sometimes it just means you've healed enough to take the next punch. That next punch came on a Thursday. I was folding linens for the church kitchen when my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Miss Helen, this is Attorney Griggs. We need to speak regarding a property dispute. Call me immediately." My stomach turned. I called. "Mrs. Carter," the man said, voice slick as courtroom polish. "There's been a filing involving the Jefferson Street property. The church." I gripped the counter. "What kind of filing?" He hesitated. "Your name was removed from the new county record. It now lists a trust managed by Marcus and his wife." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Say that again." "They transferred it last week," he said. "Looks like someone forged your signature." The world went quiet. The kind of quiet that's so deep, even your heartbeat sounds guilty. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was sad. No, sadness was too small. I was focused. See, the Lord may turn cheeks, but I only got two. After that, I start filing paperwork. By dawn, I was dressed head to toe in navy blue, the color of authority. Bible in one hand, folder in the other. When I walked into the courthouse, every clerk straightened up like they felt a sermon coming. The clerk said, "Can I help you, ma'am?" "Yes, baby," I said sweetly. "I need to see the file for the Jefferson Street Baptist Church." She flipped through her computer. "Looks like a new deed was filed." "I know. That's why I'm here to unfile it." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "I'm Miss Helen Carter," I said, sliding my ID across the counter. "And whoever signed that paper pretending to be me, they bout to meet the Lord in small claims court." 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Attorney Griggs. He was young, maybe 35, confident, thought his law degree made him bulletproof. "Miss Carter," he said, "these things can get messy. You sure you want to pursue legal action?" I leaned forward, eyes steady. "Baby, I raised 3 kids, buried 1 husband, and fought cancer without missing a Sunday. You think I'm scared of paperwork?" He blinked. "No, ma'am." "Good," I said. "Then let's get to work. The first thing he showed me was the signature. It was close. Neat cursive, same flourish on the H, same loop in the C, but the slant was off. See, when you've signed your name to prayers, debts, and miracles, you know the rhythm of your own ink. "That ain't me," I said. "That's imitation grace." He smiled. "That's forgery, Miss Carter." "Then we gon' call it by its name." That Sunday, I didn't go to church. I stood outside, across the street, watching. Lena was leading the choir now, smiling like the devil borrowed her dimples. Marcus stood beside her, proud but nervous. He saw me from the window. Our eyes met, and right then, I saw the truth. Guilt living behind his pupils. He knew. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from power. Because I realized something in that moment. They might have taken my signature, but they couldn't take my soul print. By Monday morning, the court had the filing. Case: Carter versus Carter. Property fraud and forgery. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because sometimes the only way to teach grown children is through consequence. Forgiveness without accountability is just permission in disguise. A week later, Marcus came by again, uninvited, nervous, sweating. "Ma, we gotta talk." "Go ahead," I said, folding my arms. He hesitated. "It was Lena's idea. She said it'd protect the church, keep it in the family." "In the family?" I repeated. "Boy, I am the family." He looked down. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You mean you didn't mean for me to find out?" I corrected. He swallowed hard. "You're pressing charges?" "Yes," I said, and praying right beside him. He sighed, almost in relief. "I guess I deserve that." I softened a little. "Deserve ain't the point, Marcus. It's about what you learn. Sometimes a wound gotta bleed to heal right." He nodded slowly, eyes wet. "She said she'd fix it. She said she had a lawyer." "Tell your wife," I interrupted, "that the only lawyer I trust is time. And baby, time don't take bribes." 2 weeks later, court day came. The room smelled of old paper and cold air, that peculiar mix of justice and fear. Lena sat across from me, shaking. Marcus sat beside her, silent. When the judge asked for statements, I stood. "Your Honor," I said, "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for record correction. My son forgot where he came from. His wife forgot whose prayers paved her path. I just want truth printed back where lies tried to sit." Even the stenographer stopped typing for a moment. The judge leaned forward. "And what do you want as resolution, Mrs. Carter?" I smiled faintly. "I already got it, Your Honor. It's the look on their faces when they realized the church wasn't theirs to steal." When the verdict came, the gavel hit like thunder. Forgery proven, deed reinstated, property returned to Helen Carter. The courtroom gasped. Lena sobbed. Marcus hung his head. But me? I just whispered, "Thank you, Lord. You always read the fine print." As I walked out, flashbulbs popped, local reporters shouting questions. One woman asked, "Miss Carter, how do you feel right now?" I looked straight into that camera, voice strong as a hymn. "Kindness ain't weakness, baby. It's just quiet until it strikes." The courthouse doors swung open, and the afternoon light hit my face like freedom itself. Folks outside were whispering, eyes wide, some out of pity, most out of pride. I didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't gloat. I just walked, slow, steady, down those marble steps, heels echoing like a hymn only God and I understood. Marcus called after me, "Ma, please, wait." I didn't stop, didn't even look back. When a storm clears, baby, you don't chase the thunder, you walk toward the sun. He caught up to me halfway across the parking lot. "Ma," he said, breathless, "I know you won, but can't we start over?" I turned then, slow, careful. "Start over? You stole from me, Marcus. You didn't take jewelry or money. You took trust. That don't grow back easy." "I thought I was protecting us," he said, voice cracking. "Protecting who?" I asked. "You? Her? Or the lie you two built?" He didn't answer. The wind carried the sound of distant church bells, faint, mocking. Lena stood by the car, mascara streaked, head down. For once that girl had no words. She just looked broken, the way pride looks when truth finally cashes its check. I sighed. "Y'all hungry?" They blinked, surprised. "Excuse me?" Marcus said. "I said you." "Hungry. Courtroom's closed, judgment's done, and forgiveness cooks better on a full stomach." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Then get in the car," I said. "We'll talk over food. Maybe grace will digest better than guilt." We went to Mabel's Diner, the same place I used to take Marcus every Sunday after church when he was little. Booth by the window, red leather cracked, smells of fried catfish and coffee. The waitress grinned when she saw me. "Well, Lord, if it ain't Miss Helen. Ain't seen you in a minute." "Been dealing with grown people foolishness, baby," I said. "Bring us 3 plates of peace offerings and a pot of mercy." She laughed, not knowing I meant every word. When the food came, nobody touched it at first. I looked at them both. My son, my disappointment, my legacy, and his wife, my test, my lesson. "Y'all remember when we used to come here?" I asked. Marcus nodded. "Yeah, you'd order pie first." "'Cause life's short," I said. "And sweetness belongs at the beginning, not the end." I leaned back. "So let's start this forgiveness thing right. Tell me the truth, not the excuse. The truth." Marcus spoke first. "I thought the church needed a fresh image. Lena said investors would help expand it. Youth centers, food drives, all that. But they needed it under a trust, not your name. So she talked you into making it look cleaner on paper by dirtying my name," I said quietly. Lena's lip quivered. "I thought it'd be easier to get donations if the deed wasn't tied to one person. I didn't mean for it to be like a crime," I finished. "Baby, sin don't care what you meant. It just counts what you did." She started crying again, shoulders shaking. Marcus reached for her hand. "We were wrong, Ma." "I know," I said, "but wrong ain't the end of the story unless you stop learning." They both stared at me, confused. "Y'all think this was about a building," I said. "It wasn't. It was about legacy, about who writes the next chapter of a story I started when my hands were still steady enough to paint those pews." I tapped the table. "You tried to edit my life, baby, but God's the only author I ever signed a contract with." For a moment, nobody spoke. The diner buzzed with small talk, silverware clinking, gospel music humming low from the radio. Then I reached into my purse and slid a small envelope across the table. "What's this?" Marcus asked. "Forgiveness," I said. He opened it. Inside was a check made out to the church. $10,000. His eyes went wide. "Ma, why?" "'Cause you gon' use that to start the youth kitchen you talked about," I said. "Feed some hungry kids, feed some broken souls, make something holy out of the mess you made." Lena covered her mouth. "You're giving us money after all this?" "Baby," I said, "I'm giving you a chance. That's more expensive." Tears filled Marcus's eyes. "We don't deserve you." I smiled faintly. "That's the thing about mothers, baby. We don't give what's deserved. We give what's needed." He reached for my hand. "Thank you, Ma." I squeezed his fingers, the same hand I used to hold when he took his first steps. "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you keep walking right." As we left the diner, the evening light fell warm across the parking lot. A little boy ran past with a football, laughing. I watched him go, thinking how fast innocence runs when life ain't caught it yet. Marcus turned. "Ma, you ever regret fighting us in court?" I looked at him, eyes soft but sure. "No, baby. Sometimes love gotta show up wearing armor. Otherwise it gets mistaken for weakness." He nodded, wiping his face. "I'll fix it, I promise." I smiled. "Then that's one promise I'll hold you to." That night I walked into the church alone. Empty pews, quiet air. I stood at the altar looking up at the stained glass glowing from the streetlights outside. "Lord," I whispered, "you took me from fury to forgiveness in 30 days flat. You must be training me for sainthood." The light flickered like a wink from heaven, and in that sacred silence, I realized revenge satisfies but forgiveness multiplies. Still, grace or no grace, I locked that deed in my fireproof box before I went to bed, because even saints keep receipts. 2 months later, the church was alive again, not with whispers, but with work. Children's laughter bounced through the halls, and the kitchen smelled like cornbread, stew, and second chances. They called it the Carter Kitchen. It wasn't my idea, that was Marcus's doing. He said it was his way of feeding the community that fed him. And for the first time in a long while, when I looked at my boy, I didn't see the man who hurt me. I saw the man I'd raised. On the first day the kitchen opened, the line stretched halfway down Jefferson Street. Single mothers, old folks, tired fathers, hungry babies, all waiting under a hand-painted sign that said, "Love served hot." I watched from the doorway as Marcus handed out trays. Lena poured drinks, and little Deacon Samuel led prayer before the first plate was passed. The air smelled like garlic and grace. That's when Sister Clara leaned over to me and whispered, "Helen, look at God." I nodded. He'd been showing out lately. Lena caught my eye from across the room. She came over, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mama Helen, we got plenty of leftovers. Should we pack some for the folks at the shelter?" "Baby," I said, "we don't call it leftovers when it's love. We call it overflow." She smiled, a real one this time, not the practiced kind. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about that day in court." "Mm-hmm," I said, sipping my sweet tea. "The Lord's. Courtroom or man's?" She laughed softly. "Both. I realized something." "What's that, sugar?" "I thought power came from control, but it don't. It comes from truth." I set my cup down. "Now you preaching." Later that evening, after the crowd cleared, Marcus walked me home. The streetlights glowed gold, soft on the cracked sidewalks, and the cicadas were singing like background music, written just for us. "You ever get tired of forgiving, Ma?" he asked quietly. I smiled. "Every day. But that's how I know it's working." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Forgiveness ain't supposed to feel easy," I said. "It's supposed to stretch you, make you reach for God 'cause your arm's too short to hug the pain yourself." He nodded slowly. "I don't deserve you." I stopped walking, turned to face him. "Stop saying that, Marcus. Deserve got nothing to do with it. You're mine, and mine means forever, even when I gotta love you through disappointment." When we reached my porch, I looked out at the dark street and said, "You know, your daddy used to say storms don't ruin crops. They reveal which roots were deep enough to hold." Marcus looked down at his hands. "Guess I was shallow for a while." I chuckled. "We all are, baby. That's why rain exists, to remind dirt it's still got purpose." He leaned over, kissed my forehead. "Good night, Ma." "Good night, baby." As he walked off into the dark, I whispered to the air, "Thank you, Lord. I see what you were growing." Weeks passed. The kitchen became more than a charity. It became a movement. People donated, volunteers showed up, and stories spread online about the mother who forgave her son in court. Some folks called it inspiring. Some called it foolish. I called it balance. Then one evening, I got a letter, postmarked from Montgomery. Inside was a check, $25,000, and a note that said, "For the Carter Kitchen, anonymous donors inspired by your story." I held that note like it was scripture. Next Sunday, I walked to the pulpit again, but this time not with a folder of receipts, with a smile. "Church," I said, "God done turned my courtroom into a kitchen and my pain into payroll. Ain't he good?" The room erupted. Claps, cheers, laughter, praise. Even the organ joined in. Like heaven itself had perfect timing, and for the first time in months, I laughed without bitterness. Because sometimes redemption sounds like frying oil in gospel music in harmony. After service, Lena came up to me with a framed photo. It was the three of us, me, her, and Marcus, standing in front of the new kitchen, smiling. The caption read, "Built on faith, seasoned with forgiveness." She said, "We want to hang it above the altar." I touched her hand. "Baby, that's the first good idea you've ever had." We both laughed until tears blurred the picture. That night, I sat on my porch again, rocking slow. The air was cool, crickets humming, world at peace. I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the court, the rebuilding, and I realized something I hadn't before. Revenge had given me satisfaction. Forgiveness gave me strength. But wisdom gave me rest. I whispered, "Lord, you sure know how to write a plot twist." The wind rustled through the magnolia tree like a soft amen. Down the street, I could see Marcus locking up the church, his arm around Lena. And for once, I didn't see betrayal. I saw harvest. Because, baby, when you sow truth, forgiveness is the only crop that grows tall enough to see heaven. By the time autumn rolled around, the Carter kitchen had become more than a program. It was a pulse. Every Thursday night, the line outside curled around the block, and the smell of fried catfish mixed with laughter and prayer like heaven's own perfume. News crews came. Reporters asked questions. One even said, "Miss Helen, how does it feel knowing your betrayal turned into a blessing?" I looked straight into that camera and said, "Baby, pain's just potential that ain't found its purpose yet." One evening, after the crowd cleared and the lights dimmed low, I found myself sitting alone in the church kitchen. The hum of the freezers was steady, almost peaceful. I was folding napkins when Marcus walked in, holding a small box. "What's that?" I asked. He smiled. "Something I've been meaning to give you." He set it on the table. Inside was a gold plaque. It read, "The Helen Carter Foundation, feeding souls, restoring faith." I blinked, speechless for once in 70 years. "Y'all made this?" He nodded. "It's official now. Nonprofit status approved last week. We wanted to surprise you." Lena stepped out from the doorway smiling. "We even filed your name as founder and chairwoman." I stared at that plaque, hands trembling. The metal gleamed under the fluorescent light. Humble, but holy. All I could do was whisper, "Lord, look at you, taking my hurt and turning it into headquarters." Tears ran down my face before I could stop them. Marcus hugged me tight. "You built this, Ma. You always did." I smiled through the tears. "No, baby. I just held the line till y'all learned how to walk it." The next Sunday, Reverend King invited me to speak again. He said, "Sister Helen, folks been asking for your testimony. You mind blessing us?" I stepped to that pulpit one more time. Same wooden floor I once cleaned with vinegar and tears. Same pews that had watched me cry and rise again. I took a deep breath, felt the weight of 70 years of storms and songs, and said, "Church, forgiveness ain't weakness. It's wisdom that's been through fire." The room went still. Even the babies stopped fussing. "I learned something," I continued. "You can't control who hurts you, but you can sure decide how you heal. And when you heal right, you heal generations." Lena wiped her eyes. Marcus held her hand. The choir hummed soft behind me, and I swear the organ joined in without anyone touching it. I lifted my hands toward the stained glass and said, "God don't waste pain. He recycles it, turns betrayal into bread and shame into seed." And right then, I knew this was the legacy I'd been fighting for. Not the building, not the deed, but the becoming. After service, people crowded around. Hugs, thanks, tears. A young girl, maybe 16, whispered, "Miss Helen, I want to be like you one day." I smiled, then learn how to stand tall without stepping on nobody. That evening, I walked home alone under the streetlights. The air was cool, the kind of calm that smells like peace finally earned. As I reached my porch, I saw a letter waiting in the mailbox. No return address, just my name written in fine cursive. Inside was a small note. "I was one of those kids your kitchen fed last month. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. You don't know me, but that meal made me believe God hadn't forgotten me. Thank you, Miss Helen. No name, no signature, just truth. I pressed that letter to my chest and whispered, "See, Lord? That's why you wouldn't let me quit." The wind moved through the magnolia again, gentle, approving. Later that night, Marcus called. "Ma," he said, "I know you don't like big events, but the city wants to honor you. Key to Jefferson Street." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my tea. "Baby, they should have done that when I fixed that pothole myself back in '92. He chuckled. "They're giving it to you next month. You deserve it." "Deserve don't mean need," I said, "but I'll show up, long as they serve lemon cake after." Before bed, I walked one last time through my quiet house. Pictures of my family lined the hallway. My late husband, my children, even Lena now, and for the first time, every frame looked right. I paused by the window, watching the glow of the church down the street. It shined soft and golden, like faith made visible, and I whispered, "They tried to hide a wedding from me, Lord. But you gave me a movement instead." The night settled deep and kind. Crickets sang in harmony, and somewhere in that melody I heard my husband's voice one last time, low, proud, eternal. This was Aunt Helen, still standin', still lovin', still learnin'.